This video brought to you by the Bose Headset 10.
We're continuing our interview with outgoing President of AOPA, Phil Boyer. Phil, thanks for joining us. In the previous segment, we talked about government regulation and government encroachment on GA. As we're speaking 2 weeks before the election, the big concern is the credit crunch and the economic downturn. So that leads to the obvious question, what can AOPA do, or pilots in general do, about making and keeping flying affordable?
Well, it's very difficult. I lay awake at nights over the past 18 years in this job trying to figure out what do we do about fuel prices. And I guess my quick and dirty and slough it off answer would be, well, when the AAA, which is a larger organization than AOPA, figures out what to do about the gas for cars price, then we'll try to do something here. Very little we can do when economic issues and business takes over in this regard. I guess the message I'm sending out to people right now during very difficult economic times, and by the time you play this, we will have some survey data back. We're, right as we're doing this interview, we're going to go out on the internet with some in-depth survey information about how this is affecting people's flying. The biggest thing I tell a pilot is you have a pretty good investment in that airplane, in that hangar, in the annual you have to put in the plane, in the insurance. So are you using it? Are you just measuring the cost of putting, the per hour cost, or are you just measuring, gee, if I put fuel in the plane at a diminishing price right now, can I make this trip better than with the airlines? Can I enhance my personal family travel, let's say, or whatever? And not just button up these resources, stick them in a hangar, lock the hangar, and pay those heavy fixed costs.
If I ask you to gauge in your crystal ball as far as the fuel cost and availability, what's AOPA's view on that? Will we continue to have 100 low lead for the foreseeable future, and if so, will alternative fuels come into play that may be more affordable?
I think the short to medium term, so let's put a timeline on that. Within a decade, we're going to have to get the lead out. But if somebody's looking right now, short to medium term, there's certainly no way we're going to take certified airplanes built to a standard and a slug of airplanes that will require a certain level of fuel. So the transition will be evolutionary, not revolutionary. And I also say if somebody is looking right now, as I am, at buying, let's say, an upgraded airplane in the piston fleet, I'm certainly going to put my money where my mouth is and say, I see enough solutions out there. They may not be, put this fuel in and you can run your IO 550 or 520 or Lycoming 540, which apparently is the roughest engine to be able to run. But maybe with some ignition timing changes, some small kits added, you'll be able to burn whatever comes up in the future that is designed for that segment. We're working hard, as we have been, gosh, I think since I've been here. Every year we get money appropriated for the Tech Center at FAA on fuels research. There's some great things being done around the country. The Swift fuels, I think we just had a meeting today in the building with the principals of that to see what that holds up for us. So once again, as responsible Americans, we're going to have to get the lead out. But I don't think that should affect somebody thinking right now, I'm building a home built, and my biggest expense is a certified engine. Should I buy one?
Speaking of home builds, let's talk a little bit about light sport. What do you see as the future of that segment? Is that the avenue that becomes affordable flying for pilots and owners who are maybe they don't need a Bonanza or they don't need a Cessna 210 anymore? What's your view on that?
Well, I have a Skycatcher on order.
You do?
So maybe that, and I plan to take delivery whenever it happens. So once again, maybe it's a cute answer, but it's a true answer. But I think it's going to be an entry-level plane. Basically, most of these, when the market shakes down, are nothing more than a 150, which many of us learned to fly in the past, with a little less regulation and a little less time to get in. So I think it's going to be entry-level. They're not going to be planes that you can do many of the things our members and you and I do with our airplanes, and that is business or personal travel of any substance with family or business associates.
Is the LSA segment working out about like you thought it would, or would you like to see more activity there?
Well, I was never one who thought this was going to be the next plateau. I always thought it would be a very slow and somewhat painful transition, and it's exactly happening in that manner.
Painful in what sense?
Well, I think because a lot of people had their hopes that all of a sudden the market was going to change instantly. People were going to flock to flight schools. Well, first of all, flight schools have got to buy them. And many flight schools are operating with leasebacks on planes they've sold for the only profit they made in the year was selling the plane to an owner. So they're not about to put a two-place trainer on the line and compete with the promises they made to somebody who bought a plane. Other schools needing to, thinking traditionally of, well, I get a higher rate to do this. I have an investment in my fleet. So it's going to be a slow process. But I think these will find their niche over time. And once again, I do not think they are the end state for GA in this country.
AOPA has been intimately involved in technological initiatives, GPS at the top of the list, ADS-B. The association has also had to push back a bit on government to avoid mandates for equipage. How have you managed to balance that, and how will that work going forward? We want this new technology, but we don't want to be forced to buy it.
Well, I guess we want to benefit. We as pilots and owners want to benefit. And before we're willing to commit to equipage, what is the benefit for us? Is the benefit that we can dismantle all the radars in the country and avoid the government paying for those expensive installations and maintenance, and we bear the cost in our cockpit? Well, I don't think so, because I'm not even sure they're going to dismantle radars for defense purposes. So what is the benefit to the pilot? And right now, what started out to be something we've supported for a dozen years, I've traveled to Alaska. One of my airplanes I personally own has ADS-B in it. It's losing its benefit. Once again, like any technology, we don't need weather in the cockpit any longer. You can get that on a handheld from XM. I was doing a meeting just last week in Washington indicating, don't tell me weather in the cockpit's a reason to spend $12,500 for ADS-B. If you take $29.95 a month for the low-cost, let's say, XM subscription, it's 36 years to a payback. So we're not about to put that in our plane.
With that in mind, what do you see as the most important technological advancement on the horizon for light aircraft GA?
Good question. I guess it's continued advanced use of GPS and the ability to know exactly where you are. WAS, the Wide Area Augmentation System, to even give that greater granularity. And then the ability to design an airspace system that no longer makes use of airways to ground-based upside-down ice cream cones called VORs, but the ability to fly to any point at any time.
All right. Thank you very much for talking with us, Phil.